Hello and welcome to another video on IGCSE Classifieds Mathematics. In this video, we shall be discussing factoring trinomials. In this question, we're asked to factorize x power 2 plus 3x minus 28. So when you have a polynomial that starts with x power 2 and then has a term in x power 1 and then has a third term that has no x, the only way possible to factorize this term is through the technique I'm going to say right now, which is the technique of factoring trinomials. You don't need to try to take a common factor out because you have different powers of x in each term and you do not have an x in the third term. So you cannot take out an x as a common factor. If there are numbers, coefficients of the different terms of x that you can sort of figure out how to take a common factor from, then you can always do that. You can always try to take a common factor out of the numbers. But for the x's, you cannot take out a common factor here. So how do we factorize trinomials? Basically, we're looking for two numbers, a and b, such that a times b gives us this number here, and we don't really care about the sign just yet. We don't care whether it's positive or negative just yet. So we're looking for two numbers when multiplied give us 28. And then based on this sign, so I have to use this sign and I need to put it here. And then a minus b has to give me the number next to the x. So in this case, a minus b has to give me 3. So how do we figure out what the two numbers are? Either you do it mentally, of course, or there is a systematic way, which is basically to start listing the factors of 28. And you start with 1. So 1 multiplied by 28 gives you 28. And then you need to check whether the difference here is in fact 3. So 28 minus 1 gives you 27. So this is incorrect. And then you move on to the following pair. 2 multiplied by 14 would give me 28 as well. So in this case, the difference is 12. I just do 14 minus 2 to check. And again, the difference here is not what I want. So maybe try 3, but you're going to figure out that 3 is not a factor of 28. If you try to divide 28 by 3, you don't really get a whole number. You get a decimal. So 3 doesn't work out to begin with. Now let's go for 4. 4 multiplied by 7 gives us 28. And the difference, so 7 minus 4 gives us 3. And this is the correct difference we're looking for. So 4 and 7 are the two numbers we're looking for, since their product is 28 and their difference is 3. So we just write here 7 minus 4 equals 3. So our factors are going to be positive 7 and negative 4. So we just write x plus 7 and x minus 4 as our final answer. Now, if you try to, so I'll just erase the steps so that you can compare to the marking scheme, just to make sure that we have the right final answer, and we do. X minus 4 times x plus 7 is the correct final answer. Here we're asked to factorize x squared minus 4x minus 21. So we begin again by saying, I want two numbers that when multiplied give me 21. And based on this sign here, I'm going to write that here. I'm going to say that a minus b has to give me negative 4. And the negative is significant because it tells me which of my numbers is going to be positive and which of my numbers is going to be negative. So let's start trying to figure out the factors of 21. So 1 multiplied by 21 And I'm looking here for the difference again. So 21 minus 1 is just 20. And that's not what I'm looking for. Remember, 1 times 21 is 21, and 21 minus 1 is 20. So it fulfills the first requirement, but it does not fulfill the second requirement. What about 2? Well, since 21 is odd, I know that 2 is not a factor, so I cannot really use 2 in this example. What about 3? 3 is a factor of 21. You can divide 21 by 3, and the answer would be 7. And 7 minus 3 gives you 4. So this is actually what we're looking for. But we want it to be -4, not +4. So instead of 7 minus 3, we're going to just say instead 3 minus 7 equals -4. This is a correct equation, and 3 times 7 gives us 21. So we're all set. All we have to do now is just write x plus 3 multiplied by x minus 7. We take this number as a positive number, and we take this number as a negative number. And our final answer is going to be x plus 3 multiplied by x minus 7. This is correct, as we can see from the marking scheme. Again, another factorization problem. We start by saying that a multiplied by b gives us this number here. And then we look at the sign before it. It's negative, so we write a negative here. So a minus b equals the number next to the x here would be -1 in this case. And we proceed to find the factors of 132. So 1 multiplied by 132, but the difference here would be 131. 2 multiplied by 66. You can either do it using your calculator, just 132 divided by 2, that gives you 66. Or you can do long division if you want to do it mentally. But the difference here between 66 and 2, this is 64, so these do not work out. Let's try 3. 3 would be, let me do it really quickly. That would be 44. So 132 divided by 3 is 44. And then if you try to subtract, you get 41. And that's not what we're looking for either. Let's try 4. 4 multiplied by 33 gives you 132. But the difference again is going to be 29, which is not what we want. So this problem is a bit more challenging because you have a lot of options to try. So for 5, if you try 5 times what gives you 132. So if you try 132 over 5, you're going to get a decimal. So we don't really need to use 5. If you try 6, you're going to get 22. So you need to check the difference here. And the difference is 16. So it's still not what we want. If you try 7, it won't really work out because you're going to get the decimal. If you try 8, it won't work out as well. If you try 9, it won't work out. 10 would not work out. Then finally, after a lot of trials, if you try 11, it will work out and you're going to get 12. And 12 minus 11 is 1. So this is what we were looking for. Took us some time to get there, but eventually we did. Now, since we want the difference to be -1, not +1, so it should not be 12 minus 11, it should be 11 minus 12 to get a negative answer. So we have 11 for A and 12 for B, or rather positive 11 as our first number and negative 12 as our second number. So x plus 11, x minus 12. Of course, you can always try this mentally because 1 times 132, you're looking for a difference of 1. So 1 and 132 are very far apart. And if you look at our numbers, you can see that as this increases, as the first increases, the second decreases. So you can see that the difference is gradually getting smaller. So if you want to do it mentally, you can skip a couple of numbers if you feel like you want a bigger number to begin with in order to get a smaller difference. There's always a way to try to mentally speed up the process. But what I did here is like the most systematic way possible so as to accommodate everybody who does not like to do stuff mentally and so on. So anyway, this here is our final answer, x plus 11 times x minus 12. And from the marking scheme, we can check that it's correct. Of course, if you're wondering if the order of the brackets matters, of course it doesn't. So x plus 11 times x minus 12 is exactly the same as x minus 12 times x plus 11. The problem would be x plus 12 and x minus 11. This would be an incorrect answer because the sign of 12 has to be negative and the sign of 11 has to be positive. But the sequence of the brackets themselves is perfectly fine, regardless of whether you start with x plus 11 or x minus 12. Here we want to find two numbers multiplied together, giving us 22. So a times b equals 22. And based on this sign again, a minus b equals positive 9. And we start with the factors of 22. So 1 times 22, the difference here is 21. So that doesn't work. 2 times 11, the difference is 9. So this does work. And we go for it. So 11 minus 2 equals 9. So we have positive 11 and negative 2. X plus 11, x minus 2 would be the correct answer here. So this brings us to the end of our video. I hope this has been beneficial. Thank you for watching.